I think the first thing I've got to sort of say is that George Stobbart, Broken Sword, unless someone correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the second longest serving VA role in adventure gaming, right?
Yes.
Because you got Chris Jones as Tex Murphy, who didn't really do anything for the first couple of his games, but he was there, because they didn't want to pay any money. And then I think it's you. I can't think of anyone who's kind of got as long a tenure. Certainly sort of doing like the same character, the same series.
Yeah, I started when I was 12. Just saying.
And you still remember Paris in the Fall?
Yes, how could I forget?
So, I mean, we've presumably got to sort of jump in, like, I'm going to guess you never assumed it would still be going like sort of 30 years later.
Oh, no, man. Well, not 30. It's 22. Thank you.
Hey,
no.
You're not dead, the series isn't over.
That's true. No, I had no idea. No, this was when we first did it. I don't even remember the name of the studio now. It was in Clapham Junction, just off Clapham Junction off Lavender Hill, and a little tiny place. And I got hired to do this game. I'd never done a video game. In fact, I'm not sure if many video games have been done yet. Ours was certainly the biggest. I mentioned earlier that I got the first script, which was 300 pages. The second set was 320 pages. I mean, just huge. So I didn't think we'd finish that. I got hired for 1 week to do 5 days and 8 hours a day, and we ended up doing 6 days, 12 to 14 hours a day for 2 weeks. And it was a blast. I had such a good time. It was great. But if you'd have told me that I'd be sitting here talking about this now, I would have laughed in your face. Not a chance.
I understand that you got the job through the original Nico, right?
I did. Hazel Ellerby. Yeah, we were at drama school together. Yeah.
And had you sort of done much sort of VA before that? How did you sort of
No, because I was an American actor, and Charles wanted an American actor, and she said, "Oh, I know a really good guy," and she lied. And Charles, I met the first director, who's not with us anymore, and we met at Neil's Yard, and we had a really interesting conversation, and then I got the gig. That was it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly sort of speaking to Charles about, he gushes. I mean, he's a huge, fan of your work and I think more than that, it's a lot of time when people sort of do a voice acting, they kind of come into the studio, they kind of record their lines, they move on, they do other kind of projects. But he was saying that more than much, you really seem to get into the creative side as well. Knowing George basically probably better than anybody at this point. Having voice for sort of so long, and having script changes, and he wouldn't really say this, and
he's very generous. I mean, the stories are Charles. He's really generous. The only thing I really ever started doing was Americanizing it. Sometimes it's a little bit too English. There've been a couple of things I've put in, and I'm sort of a cheeky fool, and so I put stuff in, and sometimes he takes it out, and it ends up on outtakes, which we've talked about very recently. But no, we go through storylines and stuff like that. What do I think of them? But and we have a very general conversation. But that really is Charles. He's the mastermind. It takes him 2 to 3 years to write each one, and believe me, he writes it. He goes traveling all over the world to investigate these theories and practices that people get involved with. And I just go, yeah, it sounds really good.
But I'm sure you've got to have some kind of ownership over the, just deep down ownership of the character, and how he talks, and what the relationships are, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course. As also was discussed earlier, the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel with the character. The idea of playing a 22-year-old blonde surfer from LA was kind of odd to me. And once it got better known and people started seeing my picture, "You're not George." But yeah, I do know him. He's a fun guy. I mean, he's sort of like the way we all want to be. You know, when faced with adversity, he's got, you know, style and wit and grace and no fear. He's either stupid or he's just the guy we all want to be, really. But yeah, he's good. He's good. I enjoy him.
I was kind of wondering that obviously doing so many sort of mythological stories, kind of historical stories, have you sort of taken an interest, like, the sort of subject matter behind the games to any kind of extent?
Well, oddly enough, I'm sort of that kind of guy. I know a lot, or knew a lot before it started. I know a lot more about it now. The Gnostics and all that. That's kind of a pet interest of mine. So Charles really feeds that fire for me.
Any kind of arguments over interpretations of it and so on?
No, he's the boss. Someone said earlier, I think it was you, said the writer is the writer. And that, you know, he does that kind of research. As I want respect for what I do, I have to give the writer and the designer and the creator of that project that kind of respect. If there's something that's, as I said, that's not American, I'll chime that in. Or if there's something I think would be funny, I'll chime that in. But Charles has the last word, always. We may discuss things, but I don't know that we've ever had an argument in 20 years or whatever, ever. Cool. He pays my paycheck. What am I going to do? No, Charles, I won't do that.
Well, in fairness, you'd be really hard to replace.
People are used to me.
Okay. I was wondering if you ever had a sort of fight with kind of, we've got through 5 Nikos, you're next.
Yeah, that's a sore point. That's the Nikos thing is I say we. He can't settle on a Nico. I think he has a dream Nico. That's. I
mean, is that kind of an issue, kind of getting into the character, kind of?
No. Okay.
Not
at all. No, I mean, it's not.
I was kind of wondering, because I think one of the things I always find interesting about Broken Sword as a series is that fundamental relationship between George and Nico, and the fact that I think most people see it a bit differently. From each other. Like, so some people, they're very much boyfriend and girlfriend, some of them they're platonic, friends. So it's like kind of a famous 5 sort of style, what we do on some, we kind of go and have an adventure. That's kind of wondering, how do you kind of sort of see their relationship at this point?
The relationship changed quite a bit from the outset to what it is now. In the second Broken Sword, Charles decided to have her virtually an equal to George in time and story. And I was crushed. How very dare he? But I think that's been nothing but good for the story. I think it's for the series. Should they? I mean, I can't answer questions.
I was thinking, well, not so much, what the canonical truth of their relationship is, but
right.
Obviously, but obviously, there is no canonical truth. I mean, it's very much open to interpretation.
Yeah.
But obviously, since you're playing George, I was kind of just wondering, where you personally kind of imagine, that relationship kind of being.
I think if I answer that too specifically, I think it's going to flavor what other people think. And that's one of the things that Charles is very specific about, is, will they, won't they, did they, didn't they? That has to be left out. But I will say, I love the relationship. It's like the best part of a partner and a sister. And I think that's what I like best about it.
I mean, I've always seen it very much more brother and sister than kind of boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah.
And just that sort of mutual respect, I think is pleasant. You so rarely see it.
Yeah.
I think Dave Gilbert stuff with Blackwell, we have something kind of similar with Rose and Joey, but obviously there's a fair power differential between the two of them. Whereas, as you say, George and Nico are very much equal footing.
Yeah.
And kind of how they kind of approach things.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was thinking a bit more behind the scenes. Something which Charles mentioned was that you like to kind of do the more Warner sort of style voice acting.
I do what?
The Warner sort of style of voice acting, like kind of having someone else to play off while they do their lines, rather than kind of recording individually.
Oh, no, absolutely. In fact, that was brought up in the last hour that Doug was saying that he almost always does his own stuff, and we talked about laying down stuff first, and then the other actors would come in. We did that with, I think, number 2 and part of number 3. And because this is not my first field, voice acting, and as it was also pointed out, it is an exceptionally difficult and exacting field. So I'm really, and compared to these guys, I'm a novice. I needed, for me, I really wanted to work off somebody. So Charles very generously brought people in, and when we had scenes, we actually, I think for me, without a doubt, it works better. Because then things do change when you're working opposite somebody and something sparks. It's the best, isn't it? I mean, that's what we do. So having done both, I choose the actors every time. Sorry.
No, that's cool. I mean, I said the kind of the way that they generally work is you get the script a few months before recording to kind of go over and
on a good job. Yeah.
On a good job. Well, I don't think it's specifically broken, so I'm actually going to segue onto this one. Where it sort of feels like the relationships you have with sort of channels are very different to kind of the average sort of voice actor. You're like, here's the script, read this. You don't necessarily get the context. You don't know who you're doing. A lot of the time, you don't necessarily know what game you're making, and it sort of feels like you kind of a much more pleasant experience.
From the outset, Charles had art. I was shown. They didn't have it all by any means, but they had sections of it and who the characters were, what they looked like, the situations and all that. That was all drawn and brought in a big catalog book for me to go through. The story lines and sequences were all there. Because the first one was, I mean, I was saying lines like just out of the air and without, no. So, yeah, there was a lot of contextualizing for me. That's something else that was brought up. That's really important to have.
I mean, it was one thing to really sort of jumped up about the first Broken Sword that certainly early 90s kind of the industry was getting better, but it was still the era of really bad voiceovers for the most part. And one thing which I think certainly sort of jumped out about Broken Sword was just the production values across the board were just amazing. You know, obviously visually stunning, but you know the quality of audio, kind of sort of the quality of acting. Were you aware they were going to do anything different to the norm back then, or?
No, not at all. No, as I say, that's certainly the first one I ever did, and it's. I mean, I knew a couple of friends of mine who were doing this kind of thing, but I didn't really know much about it. And when I was asking, in fact, we were doing contract negotiations, the first one, no one had anything equity. The union had nothing to offer because it had never been done before from what we were doing. So, no, I had no idea. I mean, I subsequently learned that one of the things Charles did was he got the best people available. And money was not an object, fortunately.
Well, I seem to remember that they basically re-recorded Beneath the Steel Sky because just the Australian voices weren't working, and kind of sort of the idea that somebody would put. I mean, at the time, I said audio was really poorly done. I mean, LucasArts was sort of hugely fated because they were basically the only people who really kind of had like a voice director kind of on staff, and then Sierra sort of picked it up. But were you kind of aware of like the sort of standard of the art at the time? You
Not at all.
Playing other games?
No, I have a dreadful thing to admit. I don't play games.
Get out.
I'm sorry. I don't have the coordination, nor the attention span. It's nice. Nice.
Subtle.
Can I get a cue card as well? What do I say next? That's great.
My God, that was quick. What was that? Yes, does that include your own stuff? Have you kind of played the Broken Sword games or kind of watched someone else play through them?
Charles, I mean, every time we go, he shows me sections of it. I have never played an entire game all the way through. I know how they end. I know what's going to happen. I know the bad side and the good side. And,
so that's the ending of Broken Sword 4.
right. But I mean, he shows me again. It's to get a feel of what, like the monsters and the bad guys and all that, and the caverns or the crypts that we're involved in. That I get to see, and that's really interesting. I like that.
I mean, obviously, sort of seeing bits and pieces, but kind of in terms of like the sort of the story. Is there any sort of you particularly feel fondness for as like theme and kind of sort of style?
I have to say, more than anything else, I like Charles's writing style. I like the way he approaches character. I love the way he approaches story. It's exciting. There's enough truth in it so that it engages people who have some knowledge of the subject.
And obviously, they've all kind of varied a bit in some style. Like Broken Sword 1 was fairly kind of long-winded. Broken Sword 2 was like a lot funnier. They made it like a kind of concerted push to make it like half comedy. Then obviously 3 is like more adventure-y, 4 is more like Da Vinci Code, sort of creepers. I just kind of if any of them sort of particularly sort of jumped out like being a preferred.
The only one I can say that I really prefer, I think over all of them, is number 1. Just simply because that's the first one I did. We had such a good time doing it. And there's a couple of folks who aren't with us anymore, and I remember them very fondly. So that kind of thing, that sticks out most for me. I like the last one we did, number 5, the whole Kickstarter thing, and then doubling the size of the game. That was really exciting. That was really cool.
Okay. I mean, we were quite involved with, you're certainly much more involved with 5 than kind of a lot of, other sort of actors sort of tend to be with those kind of, so obviously being so personally associated with the brand, presumably getting you sort of signed up was pretty much essential for the whole Kickstarter.
Interestingly enough, yeah, I don't do a lot of publicity and stuff. So when Charles asked me, I was very reticent at first, and then he just said, "Look, start it out, see how you go." And I have to say, it was one of the best yeses I ever said, because there are people that I'm in contact with who I met on the Kickstarter campaign. I mean, I've never met them, but we communicate. And it's fantastic.
And was it made easier by being able to do this as George rather than, "Hi, I'm Rolf, voice actor"?
It actually got to be "Hi, I'm Rolf." That was the thing. That's what I didn't like. I was very happy to do all the George stuff he wanted, but to actually get up and do something like this.
Personally.
Yeah. I wasn't sort of that excited about it in the beginning, but at the end, I'm really glad I did. There's some really interesting people around.
Well, I obviously have more, but I think you're bored of my voice. So, has anybody any questions?
Not all at once.
Anyone at all?
How hard was it to get back into the George character for number 5? Because it's quite a bit of time.
Yeah. Not tough. I mean, we played some game material. We talked about some things that happened before, just to sort of, and it's pretty easy. I've been doing this for over 20 years, so it takes a day or so, but I slot right into it. It's cool.
Practically, as a voiceover artist, do you have a very fixed warm-up routine before recording, or do you use a whole range of stuff?
No, I don't do much warm-up. The only time I've come unstuck with voiceover was the first one. When in the middle of the second week, I started having trouble, which I'm lucky I was born with a voice that you can do pretty much anything with, and it doesn't hurt. I'm just lucky, yeah.
Since your natural voice is really just George Stobbart for the most part, I mean, it's very recognizable as George. Do you feel it's harder to get work outside of the Broken Sword series? Like,
absolutely.
He or she was just like, "Oh, it's George."
Yeah. When I had a whole thing, I had 3 voices set up for George, and when the size of script came in, I mean, those are the days.
Squeaky voice anymore.
Yeah. No, they were just like, "Oh shit!" I'll just get lost in this thing. And he said that was the first half. It was like, it was a motorcycle messenger. He had a knapsack that was just full of Broken Sword. So we decided when the first studio day, just to use my voice. And again, I didn't think it'd be, if I'd known that I'd still be doing this like that, no, I would have pushed for something else.
I remember when Billy West was talking about Futurama, and he sort of said basically Fry's voice is his own, and they sort of wrapped this up and, because, I believe in the project. Or maybe because you're going to be doing this a lot. Right. Anyone else who I've got another minute, sir?
Yeah. Have you had an opportunity to visit any of the locations from the games? And if not, is there one that you haven't been to yet that you want to go to?
I would love to see the caves in France where they have the paintings. And I had an opportunity to do it. I didn't take it. It had nothing to do with Broken Sword. And now you can't get in. So I kick myself for that. Yeah.
Okay, we've got time for 2 more.
I just want to know how your characterization of George has changed over time, because you've gotten older, he's gotten older, so...
How rude!
Evidently the worst as well. But I'm curious to know...
I'm sorry, I'm not answering that question. What was the next one?
So, Rolf, you're old. How do you feel about it?
Fucking old. Yeah.
Stick with George's age. How does it feel with voice and now as opposed to back then? How has he changed as a character for you?
The changes in character have come over the writing. I mean, I just do him as I do him, and I'm older now, so my voice is a little lower, but it's pretty much the same guy. I think in my own mind. No. I know it's good. It's a valid question. I'm just making fun, but no, in my own head, I hear the same guy, but I imagine it's a little bit older. But George is the same age.
And we have time for one more. So yeah.
I'm kind of stealing it from the chat that's going on at the moment, but there was really such a good question for us. It says you're credited as the goat from Broken Sword 2 and 5.
Yes. It's sort of a long story, but one of the things about doing George, because there's so much George, I always wanted to do something else in the game, and the goat doesn't speak. So Charles finally said, "Okay, do the effing goat." And I thought, okay, and that's so. Whenever the goat, which is sort of George's bête noire, but I also do a little bits and pieces. Some of them are uncredited, but I get to play. Charles lets me play.
Nico number 6.
George. Oh, George, I love you. Nico,
you are so handsome and your voice is so manly.
And you're hired.
Anyway, we're out of it. Thank you very much. Wonderful chatting to you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you. I can't believe you guys came back.